you're watching this video, you probably want to create generational wealth. And guess what? It's not like rich kids are born with higher IQs. We already know that, but they do have advantages. So what are those advantages? Beliefs and skills. I'm going to do my absolute best to share as many of these in this video as humanly possible. Number one, don't despise wealth. Understand that ethical wealth creation is possible. If you secretly despise wealth, it will elude you. You can't hate rich people. I mean, I guess you could, but it'd be kind of weird. And so some poor parents unintentionally teach their kids that rich people are greedy or bad. Now, the flip side is that wealthy parents teach that money is everywhere and that creating value deserves some sort of reward through exchange. And that's the fundamentals of capitalism, is voluntary exchange. Key word is voluntary. Choose to interact, choose to make a trade. And the beautiful thing about capitalism is both people say they not want lots of people to thank you. Well, because if a lot of people thank you, then it means that you were doing something good that people will exchange money for. Do that a lot of times, you'll have a lot of money. How did this somewhere get distorted? Now, a lot of that's media, and I'll try to make my own version of media so that I can have a very small voice that says something a little different. But at the end of the day, money is just a tool. It allows you to exchange. It's literally just an intermediary for exchange. And as a result, it will lubricate the number of exchanges that you make. If you're somebody who tends to do bad stuff, when you have more tools to do bad, quote, good person, I won't even try to define that, but let's just say good person, who has a tool, they will be able to do more good stuff. You're probably not going to be able to create generational wealth if you hate money. But most people can't even, because they actually believe in one of the biggest lies that's out there, is that passive income equals BS. Now let me explain. Passive to you means active to someone else. There's always someone who is active. It's less of a binary of active versus passive, and it's a continuum. And so it's like, where do you live on this continuum? Let's say this is all active and this is all passive. It's very rare that you have things that are purely here. Now, you can absolutely buy a dividend ETF, and the only thing that's not passive about that is making all the decision and doing all the research in order to do that and whatever work you did in order to get the money. But beyond that, yes, the difference that you get from that would be passive. The thing is that most people who see rich people assume that they have all of this passive money that's coming in. All the richest people that I know for sure have passive income, but they've got way more active income. Most people are trying to get rich on passive when they're make it. I'll tell you a story. We own an advisory practice as part of acquisition.com, right? Which is where it's functionally like management consulting. We go in, we look at a company, we help them grow. That's what we do, right? It's actually true custom work. It's not like courses and coaching or anything like that. It's just like we actually have that. It's unfortunate. Pay for that. And someone might see that and say, Alex, why would you trade time for money? Well, think about it like this. If our time, you just increase the amount that you make per hour on the active side, and then you have a percent of time before eventually you can have a passive body, meaning you can just work out once a week and more or less maintain your physique. But time to get there. And so everybody trades their time for money. It's just about how much leverage you get, how much you get per. And so max out your active earning hours first until you have truly gotten all your passive to the point where it can pass your current lifestyle. But the thing is the vast majority of people that I've met who've made a tremendous amount of money usually have a period of time where they do the cocktails on the beach, and then they come back and they say, yeah, that wasn't for me. To a person. I'm talking I can't even think of one off the top of my head that hasn't said that. It's just this myth. And the thing is the myth keeps you poor because you make those trades. You spend 1,000 hours working so you can make $1,000 a month rather than taking the 1,000 hours and continuing to uplevel your skills so you can trade those hours for higher dollars. So I'll give you a business example for you. And this is going to be a little bit more advanced, but bear with me. So let's say that you've got the opportunity to have a $10 per month customer, okay? And that person's gonna stay for 60 months, okay? Now, people would see this and say $10 a month, and that means it's super low churn, this must be a very valuable business, blah, 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 blah. If you could get that same customer to pay $1,000 up front for a lifetime deal, should you do it? Yes. Yes, $1,000 is worth more than $600. But the thing is that people obsess about this and forget about this. And they do this in their businesses, and they do this with their time. And so once you've focused on active income, you need to understand something that separates wealthy from everyone else who stays stuck. Number 3, it's your fault. So let me explain. These 3 words will get you out of poverty. It's my fault. So one of the best ways to stay poor is blame everyone else for your problems. And I want to be clear, it might not be your fault, but it still is your problem. And so maybe I should better say this to less trigger people, but it's your problem. And so no one else is gonna solve it for you, right? Your trauma is real, your problems are valid, and absolutely no one is coming to save you. And once you accept that, you become dangerous. It actually doesn't matter if it's your fault, but it is your problem. You have to solve it because no one else will. And that allows you to actually do something about it. My dad came to this country with $1,000 to his name, but he bought me a lot of lessons, including accountability. If my father had been a hedge fund manager managing $20 billion, I would have a very different life. I knew what Baltimore rich was, right? My dad's a doctor. But then I eventually saw what Vanderbilt and New York money was. New York finance money, New York real estate money. I was like, holy cow. And so I was rubbing shoulders with some of the world's wealthiest people when I went there. And it like completely shifted my worldview of like, honestly, just what was possible. Beliefs, declarative knowledge, knowing about something. I didn't know this was possible. I didn't know about this stuff. Investment banking, I had never, mergers and acquisitions, private equity, I hadn't heard of any of this stuff. Literally the highest income vehicle I had heard of at the time was just make good money. I genuinely, my goal was $100,000 a year. So I say this so that you guys don't think I somehow sprang into existence with billion-dollar aspirations. I just wanted to make 100 grand. That was the goal for a while. And the thing is that average parents will blame the economy, the government, or the system. They'll say, we have these disadvantages. It's harder for people like us. They'll say those things. And more importantly, their kids will believe them. And then as a result, change their behavior to make it antithetical or unlikely to them actually getting out. And so their parents hurt their kids to protect their ego. And I'm saying both egos. They protect their child's ego and they protect their own ego. But if they were able to say, we're not rich because I don't have the skills and I never learned them, but I want you to. And so how do you operationalize this? Going all the way to the bottom, you use what you've got. So once you figure out that it's your fault, people wait for perfect conditions to start, when in reality, starting is the perfect condition. And that's when you can start actually making decisions that lead to wealth. Solve rich people's problems. Solve rich people's problems. You solve rich people problems because they pay better. And when you solve rich people problems, you get to charge rich people prices. And here's why this matters. If somebody got $100 in their bank account and you're asking for 50, you're asking for 50 worth. So for them, it's a very important decision. But that same $50 might be less than 1% of a rich person's net worth. So they just be the equivalent of trying to sell $1 to that person with $100 in their bank account, right? They probably would barely even notice it, right? And so most parents teach kids to get a job serving anyone who will hire them. Wealthy parents teach kids to target specifically high-value markets with specific problems that higher skills can help solve. Focusing on serving valuable markets, not just any market, is what they transfer to their kids. I mean, the easiest way to figure out where the money's at is to look and see what they're doing. The thing is, no one gets rich on passive income. They get rich on active income, and then it goes passive, and then they talk about it. But here's where most people go wrong. Even when they're solving valuable problems, they're obsessed with the wrong equation, which is number 5. And this is going to ruffle some feathers. You want to prioritize earning over saving. So one of the biggest mistakes poor people make is they think they can save their way to wealth. But the truth is, it's better to focus on how to 10x your income than save an additional 10%. Because the thing is that at the absolute hypothetical max, all you can do is save 100%. You could live on nothing, you could live on the streets and somehow show up to work or whatever it is that you do to make money and save 100% of what you make. But the thing is, if you're making $30,000 a year, it's just it takes forever. Even at 100%. This is not an efficiency problem. This is an absolute volume issue. You have an income problem, not a spending issue. As much as people are irresponsible with their spending, and they are, I think they're more irresponsible with how little they try to optimize their earning. I'll give you a couple very easy examples. You can do the exact same job in a different city and make 30 to 40% more and work remote. You can just work remote to a different company and make significantly more money. And what's crazy to me is that people don't just consistently apply to jobs that make more money, even just in the job market. Why wouldn't you? If you're incredibly poor right now, someone will take a shot on you, and you know what? You might just learn something that you can take with you for the rest of your life. And you also get this crazy thing called experience, which also stays with you. You gain evidence. This is the simplest example I can give you. What I just explained was arbitrage. The other version is just an arbitrage of time. So let's say that you, instead of saving, let's say you have the option. Let's say you have $500. This is actually a real question. Somebody messaged me and said, I have $1,000 in my bank account. What should I invest in? And they actually said, what stock should I invest in? That was a DM I got. And it was so interesting because I was like, man, I can't believe he would ask me this question because it's so absurd. It misses the point. But this is why I'm making this video, right? Is that that $1,000 will literally never become anything. Now, you might be like, man, if I put $1,000 in Bitcoin in 2013, let me pull you off the ledge for a second. So if you had done that, you would have $121,000. Can't retire on that. I mean, you can live for a couple of years, but you're not going to do much with that. The point is that they're trying to hit these meme coins. They're trying to figure out, like whatever other BS. But the question automatically was wrong because he was optimizing around the wrong vehicle. He thought he was going to passive income his way or even hit it big. But the issue is that you can't retroactively look at one decision and say, what if I'd put all my money in Bitcoin in that year? I would be so rich right now. And you wouldn't be for two reasons. Number one is that if it had gone up and doubled, you would have sold it. Number two, if you actually had done that, then you would have made another 100 other stupid decisions, and you have to factor in those decisions too. And so that decision-making calculus would be one of incredibly high risk. And so it's very likely that you wouldn't have made money at all because it wouldn't have been $1,000. You would have put $10 into Bitcoin because the other 990 you would have put into 999 other stupid things. And I'm not saying Bitcoin's stupid. That's not my point. The point is just that would have been a high-risk decision at that time. What do you do with your $1,000? You do something. Why not? Think about this for me. If you make $60,000 a year and you're like, hey, can I learn this other skill? And I would say, okay, once you learn this other skill, let's say you want to go to a conference for 2 days that teaches a specific thing on TikTok shop, whatever, right? Like, okay, well, what are you going to use? How are you going to use that when you get back? Well, I think that if I take that, I could probably sell the books on TikTok shop. I'd be like, okay, I can see what deal, go for it. Now, what do? I'm happy to shell out the $5,000 because it'll make me more back, and you're happy to learn it because it makes you more valuable overall. Why would you not do that? Alternatively, you say, hey, Neil, you're really good at M&A. You know what, do you mind if we have lunch? You're going to eat either way. I would love to eat with you. And if you want, I'm happy to tell you about the stuff that I'm good at on the media side. And maybe Neil says no. But you know what? You can ask 20 other people. That's free learning. In terms of skills of like, you know what? My job force sucks. Everyone is stupid. Whatever. Then what do you do with your $1,000 now? So I just gave you free skills. Paid skills. I just love this example. I've used it before, but it's so good. Friend of mine's daughter, making minimum wage, wants to save money. He says, hey, why don't you just triple your minimum wage? She says, how? He says, why don't you just go get a phlebotomist certification? It takes a weekend and it's $500 and then you pass the test. And then after that 8 weeks or whatever it is, right? You can then make 3 times your earning power. That's gonna pay more dividends than any S&P, any Bitcoin, any meme, anything. Because the thing is even if you do hit it big, what do you do when you have $100,000 after that? You're stuck. But the thing is that you become the money faucet when you stack your skills. And so you can start at the lowest tier, which is like, will anyone I know teach me stuff? Above that, you've got YouTube videos where you can teach yourself, right? And there's lots of experts who are very good at teaching things on the internet that will help. Above that, you're like, okay, well, I have a job. Maybe I'll learn from somebody who works here. And I know that these skills are valuable because my boss pays them more than they pay me, and I would love to learn it. On top of that, you ask your boss, hey, can I go somewhere where I will find out a skill that will make you more money. And guess what? I know that skill is valuable because he'll pay more for it. If none of those other things, and if you're like, wow, those are 4 very legitimate paths to learning, duh. On top of that, then finally you say, you know what? No one I know in my business, outside of my life, and I can't find it on the internet, or I would need more personalized attention, then you take that and you get a tutor. That's it. You go to a certification, you get a tutor, you get a teacher. And you learn. Like that's how I learned Facebook ads. I just paid someone hourly. I said, teach me. And then I made way more back. And the thing is that real world skills like running ads, building landing pages, learning how to write copy, learning how to sell. These are all skills that are super valuable in the marketplace and available for free online. So if you're like, I'm making minimum wage, I'm making $40,000 a year, I don't know how to escape. It's like, dude, pick one and stick with it. That's it. And then ask people if they need it. And so if you did spend that money to draw blood, right, you earn way more from a tiny investment. That's why you don't save. Spend more on the earning. And I'll tell you a little secret. I spent 100% of my money every single month until I could not spend the money because I was making too much of it on learning more stuff. Real. So we're talking 20, 30, 40, 50. I just kept plowing it in because I kept getting a better return on that than anything I could put it into. I'll give you this little rule of thumb. The day you stop investing in education for yourself in skills is the day that you decide you're good enough and you don't want to grow anymore. So if you're not investing in anything now, then you've already decided that you don't want to get better than you are. And so my favorite way of saying this is that instead of investing in the S&P 500, invest in the SME 500 because that is turning from $1,000 to $1,100 a year later. Whoop-de-doo. Now, once you start earning these skills, what else do our rich parents say? Reputation over everything. Trust is earned in drops but lost in buckets. Reputation is your most valuable asset. And I'm willing to leave money on the table on this deal so there are future deals. Short-term cash over long-term investments you've already lost. So what you're missing is the value of a story. So let me explain. I was studying Rockefeller, and he was telling a story to his son about how he made his first really big acquisition. So Rockefeller was the second biggest oil producer in a city in Ohio. I can't remember. I think it was Cincinnati. Doesn't matter. He was number two. The number one guy was significantly bigger than him. And so he approached the number one guy and said, hey, I want to buy you out. The guy scoffed at him, laughed him off. And then he came back. He said, no, I'm serious. And he was like, all right, fine, let's talk. And so the guy said, I'm not going to sell unless you're going to give me an absurd amount of money. And so then Rockefeller lined up the financing and gave the guy an absurd amount of money. In other words, he overpaid for the guy's business. And so after the deal was done, the other guy, who was, once the bigger guy, was like, man, you overpaid for that thing. Like, it wasn't even worth close to that. And the crazy part is that when Rockefeller tells the story, he said, he was right. I overpaid for it. But what he failed to consider was that in the next 60 days, Rockefeller could say he was the number one biggest oil producer in Ohio. And as soon as that happened, he did 22 M&A deals in the next 60 days, rolling up everyone around him because he became the biggest player. And so that story, the delta between the value of what that company was actually worth versus what he was willing to pay, that value is what John Rockefeller valued the story at. He might have even valued it higher than that. And his ethics to do OnlyFans or whatever else. And I'll take the second to say, like, I believe that people have their own choice, and as long as they're not hurting other people, they should be permitted to do it. Is it the career path that I would necessarily choose? No, I wouldn't. I would just try, right? But do I have any issues with that? No, I don't. Now, of course, some people who listen to my stuff will be like, oh, that's terrible. And then amazing. Your own values. That's great. You don't need to attack mine. Point is, I've had multiple deals that have come to me that have been not even necessary to it, right? And honestly, met the people, amazing people, sometimes great business people, and make the trade. Reputation goes both ways. And the thing is most reputational stuff is very irreversible. It's a one-way door. And so I would rather maximize as many one-ways that are permanent and good than permanent and bad. So that leads to Rockefeller bought this story. He bought this element of reputation he was able to leverage. What else do rich people buy? They buy time. And time is a very amorphous thing, right? You can buy excess capacity so that I can reallocate that capacity to something that is going to get me a higher return than this, a micro story of this. How do you make this tactical? So when I was single and in my early 20s, I'm happy to just do that. Everybody trades time for money. Everyone does, whether they like it or not. And I'll prove it, because we live in time and we get money over that same period of time. So all money you earn is related to some time that you spent getting it, deciding it, doing a deal, whatever. There was some time. Now, it might have not been denoted in a time of you get this per hour, but you could say it took 100 hours to make this deal, and then I made the deal and I made $10 million. It's like, okay, well, you took $10 million divided by 100, and that's how much you made. You made $100,000 an hour. Great. And so if there's something else that's worth more than $100,000 an hour, you should do that instead. Right? And so getting out of this mythology and just looking at, and getting out of this black and white thinking and just thinking, okay, what are the facts? What are the observables, right? And so let me give you the single best trade that you only get to make once in your life. It costs $1,500 a month. I'm gonna break it down for you. Like, if you replay any part of this video, this will be it. The best ROI you'll ever get for $1,500 a month is that you use that $1,500 to eliminate all time-consuming human tasks and gain back all the productive hours. So let me tell you what it adds up to. So let's say that food costs you 50 hours per month, which is a lot. Food costs a lot of time. To get that food completely taken care of for you is about $800. Okay, what else we got? We've got cleaning the house, $1 a month. And so what does all this add up to? Well, if you add all this stuff together, you're gonna save 96 hours a month for a cost of $1,500. So rough math here, if you know how to make more than $15 per hour, this trade makes sense. Now I'm gonna do you one better. Even if you don't make $15 an hour, if you take the 96 hours every month to try and learn how to make more than $15 an hour, you can learn that in a month. And here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is that this 100% works. The crazy part is that I talk to entrepreneurs who are making $1 million a year and they don't even do this sometimes because they feel guilty about it. But they just, again, they buy into the mythology, right? Then they're not your beliefs, they're someone else's, right? And so you just heard this thing and someone got poo-pooed in front of you when you were a kid. Keep spending $1,500 and getting 96 hours back, my God, that would be amazing, right? But it doesn't work that way. You can only do that trade once, right? And that's because there's plenty of setup and there's plenty of other people who have fewer skills who are willing to do it for less. So if something doesn't buy you time, strongly consider not buying it. Stop buying so much stuff. Because at the end of the day, do you want to look rich or do you want to be rich? Here's a little +1, a 201 advanced wealth for gym launch. And this is when I was a cash millionaire at this point. I pulled up and it was in Layla's car. So it was a Prius, so we shared a car. Prius with a cracked windshield and a dent in the side door. I pull up and all these people, all these gym owners are there because I'm supposed to help them make more money, right? And I remember, and you think that like, oh no, they're gonna think or they're gonna say something. Oh no, they said something. So I remember this particular gym owner was walking and there's a group of them and they see me. Some of them keep going. One of them stops and then just beelines over to where I am, taking my stuff out of my car. And she says, I thought you were supposed to be rich. That's what she said. I thought you were supposed to be rich. I remember, and kudos to younger me at the time. I said, don't judge my car. I said, judge my. I brag in other ways with their $300 million yachts, but relative to $100 billion, it's literally less than 1% of their income, which is absurd, right? I mean, I remember for me, I spent 16 months trying to figure out my Darwin outfit, right? 5 pieces that work for the gym, restaurant, work, or the pool, right? And sometimes I have to negotiate my window restaurants that Layla wants to eat at because of the dress code. But at the end of the day, for me, I can travel for weeks with a small backpack and keep my entire wardrobe in my bedside table. And so for me, that's more valuable. Now, I want to be clear. There are some people who like, nice suits and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe in some season of my life, I'll do that. But I think the key is that you're doing it for you and not for anyone else. You want to buy time, not stuff, so it continues to compound. So what's going to help you compound faster? 8. So what makes you compound all this even faster? Avoid bad environments. Now, what's a bad environment? I would say a bad environment is any environment that decreases the likelihood to achieve your goals. So this research has been cited all over the place, which is one of the longest longitudinal studies on success, is that there's a high correlation between your success and your reference group, aka the 5 people that you compare